Operation Coconut Tree is underway. God help ya.
What do you think?
Oh, I think she should go for Buttigieg. It'd be the great woke square ticket.
You gay guys stick together.
You can't have it both ways. Democrats, liberals, leftists, you either celebrate DEI or we're not allowed to talk about DEI, but you can't have it both ways.
Be proud of the fact that an African woman, Caribbean American woman, Indian, whatever, all of her different things.
You can't even figure out what she is.
It is the Democrats who for 8 years have screamed that he's Adolf Hitler. That's fairly violent rhetoric.
Piers, if Donald Trump acts like a fascist, it is not the Democrats' fault for calling him a fascist.
You're saying he is?
That is his
Hitler?
behavior.
Do you think it's right to compare him to Adolf Hitler?
I don't like comparing people to Hitler, but I will say that...
But? There's a but here?
There's a but there?
Here it comes. Here
Really?
it comes. Yeah. Oh, come on.
You're a shill for your guy Trump. You've always been that way.
Kamala Harris needs a running mate, and because I read and watch a lot of news, I think I know who it will be. He's sharp, he's fit, he's a strategic thinker. In fact, he's one of the sharpest tacks in DC. He's wise, decisive and intelligent, an experienced leader with a track record of success whose energy levels put the rest of us to shame. Most importantly, he's the only Democrat who can beat Donald Trump. This top pick for VP is, of course, Joe Biden. And the only reason we know all these things about him is because each and every one of those superlatives is a genuine quote from a Biden supporter in the months before the train-wreck CNN debate, which exposed them all to be complete nonsense. I refer to them again because the narratives driving this election keep changing rapidly, and there's a big movement underway right now to rewrite the script again.
We're jazzed, we're pumped, we're excited. We've got a great candidate. We've always had a great message. Now we've got a very strong candidate who can deliver that message.
A feeling for the first time in many months that this is not only a winnable race, but that they can really slam Donald Trump.
I kind of fell in love with her. I thought she was smart, engaging. She's funny, feisty, twinkle in your eye.
I'm jumping out of my seat over here watching this. I think people have been thirsting for this.
She is all over
blowing
TikTok.
it up.
She has
Yeah.
turned things that seemed cringy into making her seem cool. Like, this feels Obama-level energy, and Trump world's not ready for it.
Kind of hilarious, isn't it? As I said all week, the Kamala Harris campaign has a lot to go for it. This race is a lot closer to call, I suspect, than it was 4 days ago, and Donald Trump needs a smart and disciplined response. But is this real enthusiasm for the saviour, or the manufactured enthusiasm that comes with an unexpected second chance with someone who, by the way, has been vice president at Joe Biden's side for the entire time? Is this record-breaking fundraising because they feel like this is a brave new world, or the logical result of disenchanted donors returning to the party now the losing candidate is gone? Is this really Obama energy, or is it Chuck Schumer's audience energy?
Now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to.
Hashtag orcs. A grassroots bottom-up campaign with a process that has played out in full. Really? I thought President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, George Clooney and a bunch of billionaire donors just got together and made Biden an offer he couldn't refuse. But that's the line the Democrats are running with, and Kamala Harris took it to her first rally as presumptive nominee last night.
We are running a people-powered campaign. And because we are a people-powered campaign, that is how you know we will be a people-first presidency.
A people-powered campaign, says Ms. Harris, but yet not a single person has voted for Kamala Harris to be the presidential candidate in 2020 or in 2024. She appeared at the top of the ticket by default. Of course, Trump tells some whoppers too. I've called out many of them over the years. I will continue to do so. But this certifiably insane election has taught us anything at all. It's the importance of seeing what's in front of your own eyes. To butcher a phrase, if Trump says it's raining and Kamala says the sun is out, I'd probably look out the window myself and make my own decisions. Well, my first two guests tonight know a thing or two about attempting to control the narrative and what can happen when it spirals out of control. And I bring them together at last for the debate you never knew you wanted, but I've always wanted to have. Former New York Democrat Congressman Anthony Weiner and the former New York Republican Congressman George Santos. Gentlemen, feel that's a piece of history in the making in a rather historic month. Great to see you both on set here.
You're freaking out. You Trump shills are freaking out, aren't you? You don't know what the attack is going to be.
It's very well. Here's the interesting question, isn't it? I'm seeing all the excitement for Kamala Harris, but I believe it will be quite a short-lived honeymoon.
Could be.
And then reality will kick in. 4 months. I spoke to Trump on Saturday night, and I said, "How are you feeling about it?" He said, "Listen, if one thing I've learned in the last 3 weeks, 4 months is going to be a very, very long time in this political cycle." And he's right. First of all, this decision by Joe Biden tonight to address the nation, but almost certainly not to resign the presidency, but to say, I'm going to carry on being president until January, is that really feasible? I mean, most of the world's looking at this going, hang on, you've quit the race because you're basically too infirm, cognitively clearly in decline. You've been bullied into it because you didn't want to go by all the grandees of the party and the donors. Is it really realistic or good for the country or good for Kamala Harris that he continues to be president?
Well, I'm glad you're speaking for most of the country here, Piers.
Well, I'm not. I'm asking you.
No, you said most of the country. But listen, most of the country
understands... No, most of the world, I said.
Oh, most of the world. Well,
not necessarily America, but most of the world.
Thank you for speaking for the world, Piers.
I like to think it's a global show.
Yeah, you totally are. And you're totally a spokesman for the globe, and I appreciate that about you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look, I mean,
there's my trailer.
It's too different. He's a lousy candidate and a great president. There's your answer.
Was he fit to be president?
Yeah, obviously. He's doing an amazing job.
So why is he not carrying on fighting the race?
Because he's not a good candidate.
Right, so how can he be a brilliant president? Those are two different things. How can he be a brilliant president, but then all the people in his party think he's got no chance of winning?
I was a brilliant congressman doesn't necessarily mean I'd be a brilliant talk show host. Just cut it out. Look, the American people said both candidates are too old. One of them got out. Now one of them's too old. The parties exist to choose the strongest candidates. We have a stronger candidate than we had a couple of weeks ago. That's why you're losing your mind trying to figure out how to attack her.
I'm not losing my mind.
You do. You played 32 shots about how, oh my goodness, you were trying to make a different narrative. We're not trying to make a narrative.
No, I'm actually...
Piers, let me finish my thought. We're not making a narrative. We're making a president. And it's two choices, and it is Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And that's why your boy and your team is freaked out.
It's not my boy or my team.
Oh, come on. You're a shill for your guy Trump. You've always been that way.
I'm not, and he would be the last to say I was. I've been critical of him more than anybody in the last year.
Let's get him on the blower.
Look, I'm going to say this.
George, your response to this. I mean, Joe Biden is apparently such a brilliant president that that's why he had to quit the race.
He's brilliantly in decline. He's brilliantly stupid. I mean, the president, unfortunately, is an utter disaster. This country's never been in worse condition than it's been in the last 3 years under Joe Biden. Joe Biden is unfit to run, so he is therefore unfit to continue to be president. Herr said it in his report. He was a frail old man with poor memory. That's not the description of the President of the United States that we should expect to have. And furthermore, when my guy is 82, then he'll be too old. And at that point, he'll be done with his second term in office. So if we're going to talk about age, if Joe Biden was allowed to stay until 82, my guy, Donald Trump, is going to be able to stay until he's 82.
Listen, the American people have repeatedly said one thing, and that is that they don't like either of these guys that were running because they think they're both too old. Right now, Donald Trump is older than it was when Ronald Reagan left with dementia. He's too old. And if you want to talk about the accomplishments of Joe Biden, you know, the only one president in American history has ever lost jobs, and it was Donald Trump.
He also had a global pandemic, Anthony.
Oh, so maybe we shouldn't count the fourth year of his office.
Oh, come on. Look.
So say, okay, only let's take the first 3 years then.
Would a Democrat president have not lost the same number of jobs in that year?
Oh, are you kidding? Of course not. You forget you did show after show about what a disaster Donald Trump was.
I did.
Talking about having bleach, talking about all of the decisions that were made at that time. Managing a crisis is part of the job, and you can't say, oh, well, his first 3 years were great, and then he stunk up the joint.
How would the Democrats have stopped the job losses in that pandemic?
Well, one of the things we would do is had a consistent policy.
Your policy was to lock everyone at home.
First of all, that happened under Donald Trump. Let's settle down, guys. You guys are doing the same thing that your cult leader does. You've got to realize, 2020, your guy was in charge. Are we clear on that?
Hold on. He was my guy, but Andrew Cuomo
last time I checked, I'm not an American.
No. That was all as a result of the orders that came out of the Republican-controlled Department of Health at the time. Stop carrying on with this idea that we're supposed to be memory hole an entire quarter of the guy. The guy was fired. The guy was fired because he was lousy on COVID. Don't you remember that?
If he's so bad, Trump, my guy, as you put it, if he's so bad...
Just own it, Piers.
If he's so bad, I've always...
He's my guy.
Totally my guy. I love this. I love this. I'm a balanced guy. Piers, we know what you are.
Okay.
Just own it. It's fine.
Unlike you with Trump, I've always tried to be fair-minded. I criticise him when he deserves it, and I praise him when I think he deserves praise. It's the old-fashioned way of covering
That's the standard line for people who are in the bag for Trump.
Because I'm not a partisan politician figure. I'm not.
You're a partisan for Trump.
No, I'm not.
You clearly look. I say to your listeners, Google Piers Morgan.
Do it.
Piers Morgan and Donald Trump.
Do it.
And you'll
read
see.
every
But
column
anyway,
I've written about.
let's get you. Hey, 2-on-1. I thought you guys had 4 more people out here against me.
No, here's my question.
I'm actually impressed you're only having 2.
Here's my question for you. If Trump is so awful,
yes.
if he's so disastrous, if everybody hates him so much, if he's the worst president of all time, blah, 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 if he's the new Hitler, as all the left love to say.
And Vance likes to say.
How is it that he's currently leading the polls?
Because we're a partisan country. Are you new in town?
Anthony,
I recognize this is not a Staten Island accent, but you must know. At this table
But he's up against the best president you've ever seen.
Hey, Piers, if this table was running on the Republican line, he would have 44%.
No, well, Anthony, that's not fair.
That's the fact of politics today.
That's not fair.
But why is somebody who lost to Joe Biden now much more popular than Joe Biden?
Much more popular?
Because
let's not get carried away.
Whoa, hold on. Much more popular, Anthony. Far more popular.
Trump's approval ratings this week have been his highest ever.
The bottom, yes.
And
he just came off a convention and Roshani went up 3 points.
Kamala Harris has lower
he's never been more popular in
than
America
Donald Trump at his lowest.
That's right. He's never been more popular. He's one of the.
Do you agree?
He's one of the most unpopular figures in American political life,
you know
maybe in
who's more
American political
unpopular?
history.
Your guy.
100%. That's why he's not running anymore. Let's talk about Kamala Harris.
She's actually historically been even less popular.
Kamala Harris
Not today. If you want to quote polls, take a look today.
Kamala Harris at her
net
lowest.
up 14% in approval ratings. Listen, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying
What am I trying to do?
I'm about to say.
You're
That was the
such a
beginning.
weirdly paranoid,
That was the beginning.
schizophrenic, weird kind of. They're all out to get us.
Let me finish my thought.
I'm trying to host a general debate about this.
Let me finish my thought. You're trying to take this dynamic that has emerged, where the Democrats now have put in a better candidate than they had. I'll stipulate to that. No one disagrees with that. And you're ignoring the fact that the single biggest unifying coalition in American history is people who don't want Donald Trump to return to power. And now it looks like we're going to get that way. Right? So let's have that conversation.
Do you actually, a serious question, do you actually believe that Kamala Harris is the solution here? I know she's getting a great press, but again, the reason I played
solution? What do you mean solution?
Well, to winning. The reason I played the media, the mainstream media talking about it, is that they've gone from having done all this with Biden all year and denied the obvious that we could see and hear with our own ears and eyes. What they've done with Biden in the last 3 weeks is turn their knife into him and suddenly say, actually, he's useless and has to go. And now they're bigging up someone they've also trashed.
I saw the 4-minute intro. I know your point, but I can tell you, but something like 60% of the American people have said repeatedly over and over again, both candidates are too old. This whole idea, the media told us he was a young. No one believed it.
Have you watched TV for the last year?
He's old, my dude.
Joe Scarborough said he was as sharp as a tack and impressive, and he had a hard time keeping up with him. But for months, the media lied. For months, the Democrat Party said Joe Biden was incredibly talented. No, Anthony, you can't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
It's the Democratic Party. It's not the Republic Party. It's not the Democrat Party. What, you don't even know the names of the parties.
The Democratic Party lied to the American people consistently.
I know enough if you're going to make a reference.
So Bryson DeChambeau has his let's talk
about Donald Trump's golf game.
Yeah.
What is with this obsession with Donald Trump's?
You just said he's too old to be president. If you watch an hour of him playing golf with the current U.S. Open champion, Bryson
How about this? I got a better idea.
Let's
watch him at a rally.
Let's watch him at the second best round he did for this.
Let's watch him at a rally.
He's ever done.
Let's watch him at a rally. Call Nancy Pelosi, Nikki Haley from 4 times in a row. Let's talk about him. Talk about. I don't want to get electrocuted. I want to get it by sure.
But they're not that different.
Let's talk about him. Let's talk about him say that EVs can't fly when it's raining or whatever it is. The guy is demented, but that's cool. We're going to have an election now, and we're going to learn about it. One thing that every poll that you've reported said, both guys are seen as too old, and a lot of people hated both people. Well, now one of them is out, and now we just have one old demented dude.
Who should she choose as her VP? Who would be the
Some
smart?
white guy.
Who would be the smart?
Let's get a quota hire in. Some white guy.
Who would be the smart play?
I don't know. Probably a governor, Waltz or Shapiro, one of those guys. So we have to put a Senate race in play.
What do you think?
Oh, I think she should go for Buttigieg. Should be the great woke squared ticket.
You gay guys stick together.
Oh, absolutely.
He's been good.
Absolutely.
He's been good.
What was interesting about her speech yesterday, which was quite impressive, I thought, is that she didn't really go very woke. I mean, she really stuck to what are going to be the big attack.
What does woke mean?
Well,
what does that even mean?
It means when. Well, I can tell you what it means in modern day, or what it used to mean.
No, tell me what it means now. When you just used it, what do you mean?
I think woke is a all-encompassing mindset. I mean, Elon Musk has called it the woke mindset virus, where you basically virtue signal over facts. You play the victim. You try and cancel anyone.
What's an example?
Anyone that doesn't agree with you.
What's an example?
Anything you like.
Oh, that's not an answer. You use the expression, I don't think you know what it means. Woke to me means awake.
Let me give you,
woke.
No, come on. No,
what do you, no. You guys are awake.
You guys are woke.
You want to beat up transgender people.
No, we don't want to beat
You want to burn books.
No,
That's what woke is.
We want pornographic books out of schools. We want men out of girls'
By the way, DeSantis' campaign all about woke was rejected by the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. So keep it up, guys. Keep woking it out. And by the way, I saw you stumble over what woke is because people use it at this point as a cudgel.
I'm about to give you an example.
I know, but I'm talking first. But you use it as a cudgel, and by the way, it's unpopular, so keep it up, my man.
No, I agree. This is why she didn't go there and why Trump has actually backed off it a bit. But if you want an example of what I'm talking about, which she supports, by the way, it is the absolutely disgraceful farce of allowing biological males to compete against women in women's sport, right?
Which is abhorrent. Can you agree to that, Anthony?
Can
you
concede to that?
You ignore facts because you want a virtue signal about fairness to transgender people.
Tell me a little bit about what the president has done about that. Or what Kamala Harris has done about that, or what Congress has done about that. Why don't you guys focus on the fact that American people, and then you get up in the morning, they're trying to figure out how they're going to raise their kids, get them to a quality school, get them to mass transit that works, living in a world that's not boiling at the seams. Do you think they're really saying, boy, I hope that someone doesn't run against my daughter at camp?
Let me make a point.
It is an attempt to divide our country, and we're not going to do it.
You don't have a daughter, do you?
I have a son.
Right. All right, I have a daughter of 12, right?
He's a lovely young man.
I have three lovely...
Jordan. If you're watching this show, Jordan, you're the only 12-year-old.
I have three lovely sons too, but my daughter is 12. If she was competing in sport, I don't want her being given a completely unfair track, right?
Complain to your school board. Don't complain at the President of the United States. Don't try to divide our country over these issues.
No.
If you want,
it doesn't divide the country.
We can come up with issues that we think are wedge issues. We saw Ron DeSantis run an entire campaign on this. He got like 4% of the vote. It's not a thing that people care about. People care about what Democrats are talking about. Having an economy that's humming again. Not losing jobs, creating jobs. Not being in a situation where you have a vice presidential candidate on the Republican line who believes what most Americans do, which your friend Donald Trump is a sexual abuser.
All right.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to play another clip from Kamala's speech. This is where she talks about abortion rights. Take a look at this.
And we who believe in reproductive freedom will stop Donald Trump's extreme abortion bans because we trust women to make decisions about their own body.
How important do you think abortion rights are going to be, and how confusing is the Republican position on this?
Here's the deal. Abortion rights, it should be a non-starter. We resolve that with the Dobbs decision. It's a state's right. I don't understand. The Republicans are falling into the Democrat trap of making this election about abortion and deflecting about the issues of the border, deflecting about public safety. When Anthony here says, hold on, let me finish. When Anthony says that Americans just want to get to work and do their job and support their families, how about allowing and creating an environment where Americans can get to work alive? Because in many cases right now, the crime is absolutely rampant. Just yesterday, an 18-year-old...
What's on abortion? Answer the man's question. What's your position?
I answered. My position on abortion is irrelevant.
What's Trump's?
Trump's position's been very clear. It's a state's issue. It's a state's issue.
So he's in favor of what it is in New York.
Well, it's a state's issue.
Right, so he's in favor of what it is in New York.
He supports the Constitution. The 10th Amendment supports that the states decide what's best for themselves. And that's a done deal. Stop trying to federalize abortion.
I just want to understand. And maybe you can explain, Piers, because you're close with Tom.
No, you don't want to understand.
No, I do.
You want to rope Republicans into your abortion talk. We don't have to talk abortion.
All right, Anthony, how important...
It is kind of an issue.
How important do you think it will be?
It's a non-issue.
I just want to understand it. The Republicans' position on abortion has always been that they're pro-life, right? But now they apparently are pro-choice because they say they want to let New York decide and we decide. Okay, so what is the position of Donald Trump on the fundamental? I've never met a politician, and I know George is not one of these, who doesn't have a position on abortion.
Well, I know his position.
It's a fundamental right. Go ahead. What is it?
Well, he's made it clear through briefings to friendly media.
And the Supreme Court appointments that he's made.
He believes that he personally believes in something like a 15-week term limit, right? Which is not unreasonable.
It's not unreasonable.
However, his overarching belief is it should return to the states to make decisions.
Okay, but that's not the overarching. You either believe that a woman has this constitutional right to her own body, or you don't. And the Supreme Court has said there is no such right. One state can decide one thing, another state can decide. And what I'm asking is, what is the position of Donald Trump? Does he really believe in New York's position, which is a very generous abortion law?
He believes it's not generous. It's beyond generous.
That is
right?
a trick.
No, he believes
really?
in
what way? In what way, George?
I mean, come on, Anthony Weiner. In the state of New York, there are no limits to abortion at this point. If you slice it and dice it the way it is,
you believe the federal government should be in that decision?
No, I don't believe the federal government should be in that decision.
So it should only be the woman and her doctor and her church and whatever else.
I'm going to make this very clear. In the state of New York, a woman at the 6th month of gestation is allowed to have an abortion. I was born at the 6th month of gestation. So to say that there's no life, it's just a fetus.
Who should decide?
I think
government?
I think that's a personal decision.
State legislature?
You're
saying
decision.
the state, George?
Personal decision between
Donald
a doctor
Trump says
and a
it should be
woman.
the legislature.
Fine. But let the legislature decide, which is voted by the people.
Right. Donald Trump believes the legislature should decide whether a woman has the right to choose.
By the people.
Right,
I think that's pretty clear.
I'll tell you what, let's just bring in two more guests who are going to join us. This is the host of Fearless on Outkick, Tomi Lahren, and by the host of No Lie, and the author of Shameless, Brian Tyler Cohen. OK, Tomi, you are a woman, the only woman on this panel. This issue of, well, first of all, let's start with something you've been very big on for the last 2 years, Joe Biden's fitness to continue being president. I'm completely bemused why somebody of his advanced age showing such signs of cognitive disrepair and rapid decline can quit a race 4 weeks almost before the election, but still remain the president of the United States and commander-in-chief. How do you feel about that?
Sorry,
well,
Piers, was that
I'm
to
a
me?
little bit hesitant to say that he should resign his office because I really don't want a President Kamala Harris. So I will tell you that, just to be quite frank with you. But we're expecting to hear from the current president tonight. I hope that he'll clear some of this up. But if, in fact, he does speak tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern and he tells us that he dropped out simply because he thought he was going to lose, well, that's, again, another notch on the belt for the party that believes in democracy and they want to uphold it at all costs. I mean, dropping out 100 days before a general election because you're losing doesn't exactly scream democracy to me, Piers. But I'll tell you this, he owes the American people a lot of answers. Vice President Kamala Harris owes the people a lot of answers. What did she know? She apparently has little lunchy lunches with Joe Biden often. She's obviously seen the cognitive slippage. So we need to hear from her too. And we can't just move on. I know that Democrats want to just move on to 100 days of Operation Coconut Tree Brat Kamala, but we still have a lot of questions and we deserve answers. They subverted the entire primary process. They should be in the hot seat for that, Piers.
Yeah, but Brian Tyler Cohen, it does seem to be almost a coronation going on of Kamala Harris. This is not the will of the people, or people power, as she tries to depict it. It's the power of the grandees of the party, the donors, who were yanking their money from Biden and then suddenly give it all to Harris. And Hollywood has joined in. I don't see the people getting involved in this process at all.
Well, I think the people, how they feel is reflected already immediately in the polling. I mean, we just had the Reuters Ipsos poll come out in the last couple of days here, and it already shows Kamala Harris beating Trump 44-42. That is a poll not of donors, not of Hollywood celebrities, but of actual people.
Yeah, look, that's right, but they didn't vote for Kamala Harris to be president, right? And they didn't vote for her to be running as president.
They voted for the Biden. They voted for the Biden-Harris ticket. She has been the vice president for 4 years. She's already, when Americans donate to the Biden-Harris campaign, they're donating to both of them. She's legally able to take advantage of the war chest that she and Joe Biden raised together, and so that's where we're at right now.
OK, I want to play a clip, and I'll start with you guys here at the desk first and then go to the other two about this. Van Jones on CNN said black men will defend Kamala Harris, and Joy Reid on MSNBC said all black people need to vote for Kamala Harris too. Let's watch these two pieces of footage.
You start insulting black women, you're going to see something you haven't seen before. Black men are not going to put up with that. I was on a phone call with 20,000 black men. The word protect came up about 1,000 times. Protect this sister. Protect this sister. We're going to protect her. Protect her. You're about to see something you haven't seen before. Look, people messed around with Hillary Clinton and said a bunch of mean stuff to her. Black men set that out. We won't set this out. So I don't think that the Republican Party understands that all the work that they did trying to get us over there two more days of this, it's going to be a problem.
Anthony Weiner, I mean, I felt quite uncomfortable watching that. Did you? I mean, is it right to suddenly make a big deal of racial divide and racial voting and so on those grounds? Is it right to look at Kamala Harris in that context if you're a black person in America?
Yeah, I'm going to speak for black people in America right now. He's a black guy talking about how blacks are going to respond to a black candidate. If you want to ask me how Jews would respond to Shapiro, I can do that. But how would you? He's doing he's doing commentary on how black men are going to respond to commentary is what people do. I don't know what the big deal is.
But I've read seen a lot of Democrats in the last 2 days saying they don't want Republicans to make her race an issue, and yet here you have people like Van Jones, I've got a lot of respect for him, making her race very much an issue. In fact,
you guys are struggling. One guy's complaining about lunches. You're complaining about that they're proud of black women who's running.
So I'm not. It's not we guys.
I understand. I'm trying to play along here. Look, I think that people can talk about her record. They can talk about her race. They can talk about whatever they want. But the idea that she's a DEI hire, she's a United States senator.
I don't agree with that.
I know, Chris, but I'm saying that people have every right to be proud of the fact that an African woman, Caribbean American woman, Indian, whatever, all of her different things.
You can't even figure out what she is.
I know, because people are complicated in this country. You of all, George Santos, understand that people come from different places.
No, I understand, but what I'm trying to say is she has a history, and I'm not going to debate whether she's black or not. I think that's absolutely where Democrats want us to go.
You're the only one mentioning that, but go ahead. What do you mean?
No. That is a debate. If you look on social media, that is where Democrats are sucking Republicans into.
Tell me more about this.
I'm going to make this very clear.
Tell me that she's not black.
I'm not going to debate whether she's black or South Asian. She's not a DEI hire.
I'm not going to talk about whether she's black or not. What the hell does that even mean?
However, Joe Biden did say he wanted to have a female vice president. He made a point.
Well, he did. Strap in, white guys. We're going to have a white vice president under Kamala.
All right, let me bring in. Hang on. Let me bring in Tomi. Tomi, it seems to me there is a contradiction here between this demand for the Republicans not to make her skin color or her gender an issue here. And yet here you have Van Jones and you have Joy Reid and others very much making her skin colour an issue.
Exactly. So the word DEI, or the acronym DEI, has become almost like woke did a few years ago. It was so celebrated by the left, and now they're running away from it. I don't know why. You guys run away from your own words on the left. But listen, you can't tout somebody as the potential first female black president and then say, but Republicans aren't allowed to say that. And just as you articulated, Piers, this has been driving me nuts for days. There have been so many people that say on the left, you must vote for her. If you're black, you got to vote for Kamala Harris because she's black. If you're a woman, you got to band together and vote for her because she's a woman. But then if Republicans say, oh, you're only voting for her because she's a black woman, then all of a sudden, how dare you? You're racist and you're sexist. You can't have it both ways. Democrats, liberals, leftists, you either celebrate DEI or we're not allowed to talk about DEI, but you can't have it both ways. So either you're excited about it or you're not. Pick a lane. Operation Coconut Tree is underway. God help you.
OK, Brian, you said this. You made a video saying that Kamala Harris was Trump's nightmare. You said if you could scientifically engineer the worst possible candidate for Trump to run against, she would probably look like Kamala Harris. Why would she look like Kamala Harris?
Well, instead of this election becoming a referendum on Joe Biden's age, now it's a referendum on two things. It is, one, the fact that you now have a prosecutor going up against a convicted felon, and she is able to, no pun intended, prosecute this case extremely effectively. And we saw that in her Wisconsin speech right off the bat, where she didn't shy away from this issue. She didn't hide from it. She went right in, and she talked about how she spent her career fighting against con men and frauds and sexual predators and cheats. Donald Trump is all of those things. So that's the first thing. The second is that she spent the last year going around the country, crisscrossing the country, speaking to young people, going to colleges, talking about the issue of abortion and reproductive rights. And Donald Trump has come out and taken credit for appointing 3 Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe, and he is proud of it. He talks about it over and over and over again. So you have a prosecutor against a convicted felon, and you have somebody who is responsible for the deeply, deeply unpopular policy of stripping women's reproductive rights, versus somebody whose goal here is to make sure that she signs legislation to codify reproductive rights.
Right, and George, let me ask you, George, about this clip. This is actually J.D. Vance talking about Kamala Harris and calling her a childless cat lady. Let's take a look at this.
Effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children.
I mean, that kind of rhetoric is going to get dug up about J.D. Vance, who's now the vice president of Trump's choice, his VP running mate.
Wasn't my first pick.
Right, but he is the pick, right? How potentially damaging, now that it's not Joe Biden there, but it is a woman that J.D. Vance has called a childless cat lady. In other words, if you have two guys who've talked derogatorily about women against a young, by Trump's case, younger woman, how problematic could that be?
Well, Piers, look, everybody's going to try to take things people said about Kamala Harris in the past, but I love how everybody tries to talk about what they say about Kamala, and nobody takes outrage on how Trump's been treated unfairly by every single politician in the Democratic Party. Or Democrats have railroaded this man since the day he came down the golden escalators, and all of a sudden they get outraged because Trump said some, whatever BS about Kamala Harris. J.D. Vance speaking about Kamala Harris. That's J.D. Vance's views. Are we now going to say that all the views and words out of J.D. Vance's mouth are Trump's, endorsed by Trump just because he's the
Well, it's
VP?
interesting. I mean, politically, yeah. I mean,
no, absolutely
not. If you pick someone as a running mate,
if that's the case,
then everything that they've said and done is on their record, and they're now attached to Donald Trump.
If that's the case, then Kamala is Joe Biden 2.0, and we should tie this entire disastrous administration on Kamala Harris.
That's the other...
And she's absolutely unfit to run for president.
But how problematic could it be now that it's not Biden, but it's Kamala Harris, J.D. Vance's kind of rhetoric about that kind of thing?
I don't know. I don't believe many people are persuadable in this election. You basically have a very small number of low-information voters in the middle and a handful of states. But there was already kind of a referendum on the crazy of Trump. That's one of the reasons he got thrown out of office. And I think that to some degree, this kind of conversation about cat ladies, this conversation about DEI, about woke, I think it reminds the American people in that moderate center that they don't want to go back to that craziness. They want competence, and that's what they've had recently, and they're probably going to stick with it now that they got rid of the old guy they didn't want to vote for.
What competence are you talking about, Anthony? Please, can you entertain me and amuse me for a second?
Sure,
Give
I'd be
me
glad
competence.
to entertain
Hold on,
you.
I'm going to ask you this. The border, is that competence?
Well, if you think that
Is it competence, yes or
hold
not?
on a second. Donald Trump said in 2018-19 he needed new laws to defend the border. What happened to that?
Is this border competence, yes or no,
No,
Anthony?
it's absolutely a mess.
Okay.
It was a mess
Is
in 2019.
inflation competent, yes
These
or
are the
no,
same laws.
Anthony? No,
Inflation is at 3%. Is that the Fed target? Yes, that's
All right,
exactly.
let me bring in Tommy.
Tell that to everybody trying to...
Hang on, let me bring in Tommy.
I'm going to tell it to you.
Hang on, let me bring in Tommy. Tommy, it seems to me that Trump would be much better advised, as would J.D. Vance, rather than going ad hominem with Kamala Harris, however ad hominem she gets with Trump, better to try and rise above it. It's not his greatest quality doing that, but to rise above it and pick her off on her record while being vice president, most notably given her position as a kind of immigration czar, when really by any definition of her performance, she's been a complete train wreck. She said, don't come in, and 8 million people promptly came in. Would you think that's a better strategy for Trump Vance, is to just literally go after the record, not the woman?
I agree wholeheartedly. As much as I get a chuckle when Donald Trump calls her dumb as rocks Kamala or cackling Kamala, I laugh at that, but I'm also a diehard Trump supporter and a Trump voter. But I do worry, and I've been cautioning my own party and Trump supporters about this for the last few days, that it's not going to play well when Donald Trump does it with moderates and with the suburban women that he needs to win over. So I agree with you. Donald Trump needs to channel every ounce of presidential attitude that he has in his being, which for him might not be so easy, and he has to channel that, and he has to focus on policy, and he has to focus on rising above and really uniting the country at this point. Because if he just goes on the tirades with the name calling, it's not going to play well with the people that he needs to win. We might love it. We think it's hilarious, but he really has to buckle down. Same thing with J.D. Vance. And to the abortion point, you guys all know where I stand on abortion. I'm much more moderate than most conservatives are on this issue, and expect Democrats to resurrect 20 2022 and try to win on abortion, especially with Kamala as their nominee, it's going to be a blind spot for the Republican Party. And I would highly advise that J.D. Vance not make any super pro-life comments if he wants Donald Trump to win. It's going to be a huge blind spot. So that's just my warning. Some conservatives are not going to like to hear me say that, but it's the truth, and y'all need to hear it.
I think you're completely right. Brian, it seems to be a question of unity. One trick that Kamala Harris missed in her speech, it was not a bad speech at all. But one thing she didn't do, she didn't allude to the assassination attempt on Trump. And it's only been 9 days since someone tried to murder Donald Trump and actually shot him in the ear, killing him by 1/4 of an inch. Would it not have been a smart move in between calling him, a sexual predator and a con man and a fake and blah, 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 very ad hominem stuff? Would it not have been a smart move in terms of unity had she just taken a moment to acknowledge the assassination attempt and say how pleased she was that he survived it? Something of that nature.
Piers, I find it so bizarre that the onus is always on the Democrats, is always on the adults in the room to create unity. Where was everybody for the last 6 years calling for unity when Donald Trump was president? And, as far as the violence is concerned, I feel like any effort to try to pin, again, the onus on Democrats in terms of lowering the temperature in this country is just a testament to the fact that the Republicans are graded on the curve. Remember, it was not the Democrats. While we're talking about political violence, it wasn't the Democrats who laughed at Paul Pelosi being bludgeoned with a hammer. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who called for military tribunals for Liz Cheney. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who laughed at a kidnapping plot against Gretchen Whitmer. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who called for General Mark Milley to be executed. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who posted a baseball bat photo with Alvin Bragg and threatened death and destruction if he was charged. So in all of these examples, Piers, it is not the Democrats who've done this. It's not the Democrats who've validated the use of political violence as a tool in this country. And it shouldn't be on the Democrats all of a sudden to be the adults in the room.
All right, Brian, to a point, Lord Copper, as we would say in the UK, right? It is the Democrats who for 8 years have screamed that he's Adolf Hitler. That's fairly violent rhetoric. You're comparing him directly to an absolute genocidal maniac who murdered 12 million people, including 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So when you do that, that is violent rhetoric.
Piers, if Donald Trump acts like a fascist, it is not the Democrats' fault for calling him a fascist.
You're saying he is?
That is his
Hitler? He is Hitler?
No, absolutely not. But I'm saying he does act like a fascist. He does want to consolidate power in the executive branch. He does want to send the military into American cities. He does want to terminate the Constitution.
You have no problem comparing him to Adolf Hitler?
I am calling him a fascist. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, let me bring that to you.
By the way, doesn't J.D. Vance call him that?
He didn't. He was equally wrong.
And didn't Donald Trump use language like vermin of the people, like basically echoing the?
So do you think it's right to compare him to Adolf Hitler?
I don't like comparing people to Hitler, but I will say that.
But there's a but here.
There's a but there.
Here it comes. Here it comes. Yeah. If you talk like a fascist, if you act like a fascist, tell me a little bit about this mass deportation, Piers. Oh, actually, George, you can help me with this.
No, I can help you.
Well, hold on. You're my guest here. You're my guest is supposed to represent. I know you want to play the part of Donald Trump's defender, but let's have the guy that actually does it.
I'm playing the part of the moderator.
Actually, both can do it, or all four of you can do it.
Anthony, try and contain yourself. Who was the biggest mass deporter of people in American presidential history?
Barack Obama.
Eisenhower.
Barack Obama.
Actually, the last time we had a mass deportation.
No, that's not.
A lot of people. Yeah,
it's not up for suggestion. It's factual.
You asked me about mass deportation.
No, I'm saying, how's it going to? You want to talk about Obama, you want to talk about Biden. How's the mass deportation going to happen? You're holding up signs at your convention. How's that going to work? Just walk me through it. I just want to understand.
Let me ask you again. Who was the biggest deporter of people
in
American history?
I've already done the answer.
Which president?
Eisenhower.
No,
Barack Obama.
Eisenhower and Operation Wetback had more.
Obama deported 3 million people.
Ryan? The Democrats are very tough on the border. Democrats are tough on the border, no doubt about it.
No, they were tough on the border. In the past
Obama, Biden was good on the border. Thank you.
Don't try to say.
Thank you, pal. I agree with you.
Barack Obama, Dianne Feinstein, the late Dianne Feinstein, they were great on the border.
So we know how Democrats. We know how Democrats do it.
No.
How do you guys do it?
Absolutely not.
You've got the poster, but you don't have a candidate with any position.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
Oh, good. Hey, hold on, Piers. I want to hear this. this.
Start with every hotel here in Manhattan.
And do what?
Just vacate them out.
What do you mean vacate them out?
Get them back home.
Who's going to do that? Who are you going to hire to do that?
You have ICE. You already have the system in place.
Okay, so they're going to ICE. By the way, ICE is about 4,000 people. You're going to deport 12.
Expand ICE.
Okay, tell me a little bit more small government Republicans. You want to expand ICE to walk the streets, ask people for their papers.
We did that after 9/11. Anthony, you were a member of Congress.
What did we say about fascism?
You were a congressman. You were a congressman.
I know it's
that after 9/11.
By the way, where are you going to deport them if we don't have extradition deals with them?
Does deporting 3 million people make you a fascist then, by your criteria?
No, it makes you one of the best presidents in American history.
So you agree with mass deportation?
Obama,
you agree with mass deportation?
Obama, Biden, we know how that is.
So you agree with mass deportation?
I'm going to answer your question. You don't need to answer it 3 times. I answer every question. Mass deportation is a poster for Republicans. We saw how Obama, Biden do it. We know how they do it. Now, this is about the 2024. Pardon me,
country. So it's fine if you do.
Pardon me.
That's how Biden does it.
No.
Fine if the Democrats do.
By the way, if Donald Trump stood up and said, I want to be like Obama, Biden, I might vote for him. Is that what he's saying? Is that what you're saying, George?
So if he said...
You want to be like Obama, Biden? I want to make sure I understand.
So Anthony,
what about the one who has lunchy? Does she want to do that too?
Okay, let me come.
You guys, well, listen, at least you emulate the right people.
Let me come back to Tommy. Tommy, it does make me laugh when I hear Anthony talk about fascism, and one of the criteria is mass deportation, and then he salutes Barack Obama for being the greatest
of a bunch of police officers to walk the street. Don't misquote me, Piers.
Tommy, for being the biggest mass deporter in the history of the United States in terms of any president, which he was. 3 million people he deported, right? So mass deportation is fascism if Trump plans it, but if it's done by Barack Obama, it is a magnificent thing which Trump should aspire to do. I can't quite follow that, can you?
Well, liberalism doesn't make sense, Piers. We know that. But I'll also say the majority of the American people support mass deportation, including Democrats. We learned about that a couple months ago in a poll. But what I don't understand with Democrats is that they're just clutching their pearls over a mass deportation effort when we have 10 million people that came across our southern border illegally, and that's not including the gotaways. They have no problem with that. People can just invade our country, break our immigration laws, no problem. But then if you take those people that came in the last 3.5 years and you said, okay, you broke the law, now you have to go back because you broke the law and you came en masse to our country, then all of a sudden they clutch their pearls in horror. Are you kidding me? That's what we need to do, because your president, your sleepy president, allowed 10 million plus people in, and it's not sustainable. Your own governors and your own mayors know that it's not sustainable. So the open border doesn't work, and the only way to fix an open border is to close it and then also deport the people that came in under it. That's just basic logic. I know you guys don't operate on that, but please save me your horror and your outrage.
Okay, Brian, save us your horror and outrage. I mean, this whole issue of immigration, I don't think any fair-minded Democrat in America could possibly look at the number of people that have come over the border illegally in the tenure of President Biden and not share everybody else's view that is completely unsustainable and clearly has been a failed policy on the southern border. Do you think it's been a success or a failure?
Well, all of this might suggest that we need some legislation on the border. And in fact, we had 3 senators, Kyrsten Sinema, Chris Murphy, and Republican James Lankford, negotiate a border bill that was not only the most conservative border bill that any Democrat could have signed, but it had no comprehensive immigration reform, which is historically the absolute condition that Democrats require. Instead, it had Ukraine aid that was attached to it, which passed anyway, which means there was nothing that the Republicans gave up. And yet Donald Trump issued his clarion call to Republicans because he thought it was too important to preserve the issue of the border as a campaign issue, and so he wouldn't allow this to be solved. So for Tommy and George, spare us the grandstanding about the border when I didn't hear either one of you come out and say that this border bill needed to be passed when Donald Trump was making sure that it didn't get passed because he wanted to make sure the border was as chaotic as humanly possible.
Okay, I want to switch.
So it's Donald Trump's fault that the border's chaotic.
Yes.
That's exactly what
By
Brian
the way, in 2019, Donald Trump sat in the Oval Office and said, I can't do this without laws. My distinguished friend who's on this panel says it's common sense. No, you need laws to do it. Donald Trump couldn't pass the law in 2019. Joe Biden was prepared to do it here, and Donald Trump vetoed it. And by the way, I fact-checked while we were waiting. It's actually Clinton who did the most deportations of any
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's Obama.
I just checked it.
It's
no,
Obama.
I
you're wrong.
just checked it.
I've written columns about it. It's not
well,
true.
well, Paul, you wrote your column in the New York Post, therefore it must be true.
I will bet you $1,000 to charity that Obama deported
I don't have $1,000. However, I'll bet you $10.
I'll bet you $1.
I'll bet you $1.
Okay. Obama deported more people than Clinton. It's a fact. He also dropped more bombs in a calendar year than any other American.
By the way, you know, and all of those. Piers, hold on. Now you want to run against anyone against Kamala. You Trumpers are all the same.
I'm not a Trumper.
I want to say this about the deportation thing. We have laws around doing this stuff. If Donald Trump says we're going to use the law, right now the people that are here, despite what this person on our panel said, people who are here under the asylum laws are here lawfully.
They're fraudulently.
They have to be adjudicated. When they're here under
the asylum claims 9 years back, people are walking into the United States.
George, I can say this because you were there later than I was. You did nothing to increase our capacity to throw out people in asylum. That's what the compromise was about.
I was a big advocate to double our immigration judges so that we can double the process.
In that case, on this issue, you'd be better than Trump on immigration. Congratulations.
All right, George Santos is better than Trump. That's a good way to end that particular part of this.
I'll take the win.
We're running out of time, but I want to go to Tomi quickly just to talk about this issue of Benjamin Netanyahu coming to address a joint session of Congress. This is to boost support for his war, obviously, in Gaza. A lot of people, mainly Democrats, staying away from showing any support for this speech. What do you feel about that? I mean, in a democracy like America, when it's one of America's great allies around the world, should people be able to just stay away?
No, they shouldn't act like children and stay away. If we have to sit there and listen to Zelensky address us how many times now and beg for money, then we should be able to all come together and listen to the leader of the only democracy in the Middle East. But I think it's also very telling that Vice President Kamala Harris, who is your presumptive nominee, who wants to prove to the American people that she can handle foreign policy, something she's never really handled before, that she has instead decided to go to a sorority instead of hearing the leader from, even if she disagrees with the war, that's on her, but to even go and listen and preside over the Senate, which is part of her job, the fact that she is instead deciding to go yuck it up at a sorority is really telling, and it's exactly why they call her Brat Kamala and think it's so great. Well, it's an unserious person who's unserious about proving herself to the American people. She was not elected to be your nominee. She was anointed your nominee by all counts, and now she doesn't even want to show up to do the job she has right now because she wants to go speak to a sorority? Give me a break. What a joke.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, do you feel comfortable about Democratic lawmakers snubbing Israel's prime minister like this, whatever the view of the war?
I think that as far as Benjamin Netanyahu is concerned, I think that he is focused on his own self-serving interests. I think that the Democratic Party recognizes that. That is why he's become such a lightning rod, because this whole thing is about prolonging the war to help himself.
Okay. We're going to wrap now. So, final word to you guys sitting here. Thank you. It's been great.
It's my
by the way.
My pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed the debate. Where's this going to wash up, do you think, in November?
Look, I'll say this. I believe a Donald Trump victory is inevitable because the American people are watching in real time what's been taking place. The democracy that Trump threatens so much is almost a footnote compared to what Democrats are doing in the maneuvers. Donald Trump is not running against a candidate. He's running against an entire system, a system that is willing to do whatever it takes to take him out. They are cheating, stealing, and lying all across, making sure that they can absolutely keep hold to power. Just look at what they did. Not a single Democrat vote from the primary was taken into account. They did not allow an open process. And the one telling thing is Obama not endorsing Kamala and asking for an open primary, open convention signals that I think he's still sane. And to compare that to Hillary Clinton and whatnot, look, Hillary Clinton is a has-been that has absolute no say. So my take is Trump wins this inevitably.
Okay, Anthony, two questions. One, is it a nailed-on certainty now that Kamala Harris will be the nominee, or could there still be a surprise?
It's very hard for there to be a surprise. 300 delegates have to send a letter to put someone into nomination. There's no one to take the nomination. There's no one who wants the job behind it. It's going to be her.
And will she be officially confirmed at the convention?
No, it's going to happen sooner. It's going to happen sometime next week. They're going to do a virtual roll call to accommodate some shenanigans going on in Ohio.
And then pretty much this whole race, sort of ticks along. The Democrats have their convention. It'll be a celebration of Kamala, rail behind her. Yes. And then after Labor Day, then we get into the serious stuff running up to the election. Is that really what's going to happen?
Traditionally, the polls don't mean much until after. You're right, till after the conventions, after Labor Day. You see a lot of bumps now. A guy got, one candidate got shot. You had a convention. You had changes. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to the polls, but you're probably right, after Labor Day.
And who do you actually believe is going to win?
I believe in 2016, the focus was on Hillary Clinton, and she lost. I believe in 2020, the focus was on Donald Trump, and he lost. I think it's going to go back to now being on Donald Trump again, a reminder of what that was like, and I think Kamala wins.
And do you think if it had been Biden against Trump, that Trump would have beaten Biden?
Yes.
So you think it's been a really transformative switch?
This has been a really good week for us, yes. After 25 days of just horrible since the debate.
Guys, thank you very much. Let's do it again. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And thank you both to Tomi and Brian as well. It's been a terrific panel. I appreciate it.